again, hypothetically, when we get to $10,000 per XRP, a lot of you are going to be looking at the family office stuff, right? That is a substantial amount of wealth. And at that point, you're really kind of moving from preservation to what are you going to be doing with this? You're going to be building something that outlives you. You're going to have enough capital to be able to do that. And that may be through a single family office. It may be through a foundation. You might continue to work with us in some capacity at Digital Ascension Group. We're building out software and doing a lot of things that we think are going to be paramount and needed for those that do have significant wealth in XRP in particular. And all that being said, it's kind of, again, three levels. You're trying to build wealth, then you're trying to preserve your wealth, and then you're trying to use that wealth to make an impact. That's what family office, aside from the governance and legacy and all that, that's what they do with their money. They're very strategic about how they place capital. It's relationship capital at that point, and you're looking to create an impact in society, whatever that means to you. Again, specific causes could be for-profits that you're investing in. You could do it through a donor-advised fund, or you're investing in early-stage startups that have progressive technology that are going to innovate and completely change the world and make it better. It can be a very broad investment mandate, or you could have something that's a little bit more siloed. I would encourage people to think through themes, because we don't know what the future is going to hold. We don't know if AI takes over. We don't know what the regulations are going to look like. We don't know if we're going to have a democracy or a republic, or if we're going to a technocracy or something else. So you need a theme or broad enough investment mandate and other things in your family constitution that allow you to pivot or be dynamic or flexible, so that you're not so rigid that when things shift regulatory wise or globally or with technology, you're not stuck in a position where your family can't do anything with the money because it doesn't meet the investment mandate. And again, you're going to have a trust protector that can, change things in accordance with the guidelines that you provided. And that person will rotate over time through generations as well. Some people ask about more complex estate planning at this point, with offshore structures. Many family offices do diversify across multiple jurisdictions and different currencies, different markets. We do help people do that. We have partners that help people do that. A lot of people will talk about a Cook Islands trust, or trust in Nevis or Jordan or Isle of Man. BVI. There's a ton of places that you might structure an offshore trust in case something bad happens here, a creditor comes after you, the U.S. government decides to go rogue, and there's a wealth tax or any of the stuff that Elizabeth Warren's talking about. You just don't know what the future holds. So you want to have things in place to be able to, or structured in a way where you can navigate those risks as they might come up. We have that built into the irrevocable trust that we recommend to people. It's one of the provisions in there. It's a trigger trust where your assets would transfer offshore to whatever offshore structure you've put in place. It is not cheap to do that, right? Like, you have a structure that has to be maintained. There's administrative stuff. All of this does cost additional money, and probably isn't worth it until you are worth, close to 100 million or more, just to be able to fund everything with all the service costs and the different providers that are out there. And I'm hoping a lot of that comes down as we do see things move on chain and smart contracts take hold and AI continues to, commoditize a lot of these services. I think that it will. We're going to be on the front end of that. We're going to be making sure that all of that gets plugged into what we're doing to be able to reduce costs for all of our clients. So I'm looking through my notes here just to see if there's anything else that is, so two more things. Many of you probably already told your family, probably tried to get them into XRP. They probably looked at you like you had a third eye. Maybe some of them listened. Maybe you have gifted, small amounts of XRP onto different wallets to be able to provide to people. You want to make sure all that's done in the right way. But that should be a forethought now. You can gift up to $18,000 per person. So if you have kids, your spouse, grandkids, nephews, all that. It may even be $19,000 per year that you can do at this point without having to file a 709 tax form. So, if it is amounts of those digital assets, you do need a transaction, and you need written documentation, and they need ownership of that ledger or, cold wallet that you've sent it to. It can't be in your possession. So just be aware of those things. Again, work with an estate planner, somebody that understands gift taxes, and to make sure that that's done the right way so that there's no recourse or issues later on. The other thing that you might look into, because you've told everybody, is private security. A lot of people want to become, more anonymous. They want to remove things from the internet. There are plenty of services out there that do that. We help people do that. And the private security side of things, you probably want to be a little more private. You want to make sure that things aren't out there in the public eye, or if you become a target, how to mitigate those risks. There's full teams that work with family offices that we know that we can recommend on that. We're happy to have those conversations as they come up, and it becomes, you want to be proactive on this stuff, right? So it's better to, have it and not need it than need it and not have it. A lot of people are maybe preppers and other people in here that have, stockpiled food or other things, gold, silver. Completely understand. You'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. A lot of people probably have some brass and other things as well. So I think I've gone over at a high level, each one of these, when you get to certain price points, how to think about that, the paradigm shifts that you want to have, and the way to think through it. I do have another, call it 15 minutes here that I'm going to go through and take questions. And then we will wrap it up because I got to scoot to a podcast. But without further ado, we'll go ahead and jump in. I got 20 questions here. I'm going to try to make it through I got 22. I'm going to try to make it through all 22 questions in the next 15 minutes. If I don't get to yours, I'm sorry. Again, this is recorded. You can listen back to it later, or you can book a time with our team. And I'm sure that they would be able to, answer them as well. First up, they say, thanks for everything. How can we make yield after price appreciation? So there's going to be a bunch of different ways. Liquidity pools that are on chain that I think are coming in the very near future, XLS 65 and 66, borrow, lend, and liquidity pools. Institutions will be participating there. There's going to be a broker that sits in those pools and an arbiter in case, there's discretion or things that don't go right between counterparties that are participating in those ecosystems. There's no way to make money without some form of risk, just so you guys understand it. There's always some risk. Now, U.S. Treasuries are the lowest risk thing because we've only ever defaulted twice in our history. Many people might want to be able to put their assets into the repo market. Hidden Road is doing some of that right now. They're able to reflect your asset on their balance sheet and then, do other things with that are low risk to be able to generate cash flow or returns for a lot of the institutions and entities that they're working with. And they're doing that with XRP. So, that's probably going to be the safest way to do it. There are other prime brokers like FalconX, ClearStreet, and Galaxy that are out there that are crypto friendly. I think a lot of the other prime brokers will come online in the near future, especially after if it gets a tier 1 designation by the BIS, for sure. It's definitely going to be top of their mind and top priority to be able to hold that asset and create those solutions for you. There are other ways to do it. The way that we do it through our hedge fund is we reflect the XRP off exchange. We get a mirrored balance on another platform. We draw margin against it. So again, same thing, basically just remargining the asset to be able to take that liquidity and do something with it. We have strategic partners and relationships in our hedge fund that we've been able to accomplish that with. We were the first people that ever structured it that way. There have been a few other people that have come out with DeFi protocols, and they are DeFi protocols, but they do the same thing as us. They just do it on chain. So that is really the only way currently. There's not really like a staking mechanism for your XRP. There is a gentleman that I talked to that used to work at Ripple that's working on that. That's a similar concept to Babylon. But the point is, there's going to be a plethora, a large variety of ways to be able to put your XRP to work in the next 6 months. And you just want to understand the risks associated with each one of those, how to navigate those, how the assets are held, is there insurance, who's the counterparty, is there counterparty risk, all that stuff. Make sure if you're not working with a financial professional, which is what I would recommend, just understand those risks yourself before you take the plunge. Barry says, what accounting system would you recommend for crypto LLC? There's a lot of different ways I could answer that. GAAP accounting is what's standard. I don't know if you're talking about software. We worked with SoftLedger. They allow for, crypto accounting. It's far beyond just 2 decimal places that they provide. You also have TaxBit and, a lot of these Coinly and some of these other ones where you can prepare, the statement that you need to pass to your CPA to be able to do that. If you're doing a bunch of yield farming and staking and airdrops and all of this other stuff that's out there, it's likely that they aren't going to understand it. We do have counterparties that we work with that do, and they will help you adjust for all those things as well. Micah says, could you cover how international investors can deal with anchorage for yield in the future? We do not know where we would like to move after price appreciation. Just know we don't want to stay in Canada. We can work with you now. If you're in Canada, even as an individual investor, we have the capability to create accounts over there through Digital Wealth Partners, which will soon be DAG Wealth. So if you want to reach out to us over there and set up an account, whether that's inside of a corporation trust individually or an IRA or other type of retirement account, we can do all of those. Depending on the type of account that it's in, what wrapper it's in, there are limitations to what you can do with the assets. IRAs cannot be leveraged. There is a way around that is not perfect. We haven't completely refined that yet, but all that being said, I do think we have a yield product inside IRAs now where they programmatically or algorithmically trade the XRP for you. That product has been doing pretty well. It's produced consistent returns over the last couple months. But if you are international, we would love to work with you. About 13% of our client base is currently international. And we do have products and solutions that our advisors can recommend if you are suitable and meet all of the other requirements associated to participate. Donald says, what agentic payments? Sorry if it's simple. So a T54 is an investment that Ripple made. They made that. It's a startup that has done governance around AI to actually create digital identities associated with the agents. And they have a whole, EVM 402, I think is the standard that they've created for that they're rolling out on chain. And that's on the XRPL. So they've created a sandbox or kit where people can go create an agent that's then tied to the XRPL to be able to remit payments and autonomously act on their behalf. That's what the first one was done yesterday. My friend has more than 70,000 XRP. He is thinking about setting up an LLC with you post price appreciation. Do you anticipate a large volume of new clients post price appreciation? I do. We do anticipate a significant amount of people. That part of our business we've streamlined. So we have API integrations and great partners on that. We've gone through a lot of links to make sure that that's pretty frictionless to be able to set up a company and do it the right way. We've done more LLCs for people there in Wyoming holding their digital assets and other alternative investments than pretty much anybody else in the market. So yes, I do anticipate, but I don't think it'll be an issue for people getting through if you did want to do it post price appreciation. With 70,000 XRP, I mean, you got about $80,000 now. You're kind of at the upper end threshold of that. If we go to $100 first, you're looking at $8 million, $7 million, somewhere in there. That's, it's about half of what you would have as far as the gift tax exemption or lifetime gift tax exemption here in the US as an individual. Probably would behoove you to do that sooner than later. But again, cost to benefit, how much additional discretionary income do you have? Again, I'm not going to recommend anything that I wouldn't do. And so at that point, you may wait. Donald says, know why XRP isn't about in the main financial feeds like Bitcoin and Ethereum. It's not, so the liquidity isn't in XRP at this point. Institutions focus on where the liquidity is. Plain and simple. It's where they can make money. Post price appreciation, you better believe they're going to be on it like white on rice. Until then, it's not a big enough return for them. So as an example, like even ETFs. So if you're a pension fund or sovereign wealth fund or somebody else that manages endowment, the minimum check size that you can cut, like the smallest check size that you can cut, is somewhere between $5 and $10 million. And you cannot own more than 10% of a fund, literally, because of the diversification standards and other requirements by the SEC and the people that have oversight. So until a fund is at least $100 million, you can't even make an allocation as one of those entities. So just like that, There's just certain parameters and guidelines that have been put in place that really inhibit certain financial institutions from even participating in certain markets until there's enough liquidity. This person says, does your company have products that allow earning off XRP? We do. We have the hedge fund where we have produced some returns. We haven't performed as well as we would like, over the last couple quarters, just transparently on that. Market conditions, we've outperformed the market, but still not great. But the algorithmic trading strategy inside of the IRAs has done fantastic. And then also we're coming out with some new products here in the near future that are a little bit further down the risk curve, and then also some that are a little bit further up the risk curve. I'm not rich. I have 14,000 XRP. I'm 56, no kids, married. I want to pay off all debts and never sell the rest of the remaining XRP. $100 XRP would only need to liquidate 2,000 XRP. The remainder would lock up forever. I would not quit my job for at least 4 years if it stays at $100. Yeah, I think that's great sound thinking on that. Again, a lot of people have made this investment to pay off certain amounts of debt that they have. If that's credit card debt, that's probably a really good use of that money. That's a high interest rate that you're not going to be able to make in the market if you're paying 27 to 36% on a credit card. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to pay those off. If it's your home and vehicles and you need the peace of mind for that and it improves your quality of life, I think that's a great trade. Again, you're going to be in a position where trading money for time and peace it's a good trade versus now you're trading your time and peace for money, right? Which is what it sounds like here. So I think that, again, you might still want to speak with a financial advisor and work through the different avenues and ways that you could navigate that depending on the interest rates and what you're paying off. But the premise provided is fantastic. Skip says, thank you for helping all of us. Absolutely, dude. I get a lot of fulfillment from this. I appreciate y'all taking time out to, join me on it and educate yourself. And again, I'm not the end all be all. I don't know everything. I'm just here to provide you guys with, some high level information. And if you take it back and do your own research and find good professionals or work with us, we have a lot of really good professionals that we've been able to attract over the years. And again, I'm biased on that. So just full transparency. Donald again says, we already answered that one. Can you use Wyoming if you live in Virginia? You sure can. Many states have what they call a registered agent. So they will charge you an annual fee and you can use their address. They often also provide a virtual office service where mail, if it goes there, they'll scan it and email it to you. If you need the physical copy, they can then pass it along and mail it to you as well. Provides you some anonymity. But a registered agent is what you would use to be able to file an entity in another jurisdiction outside of the state that you reside and using your primary residence, which ideally, even if you lived in a certain state and let's say you're buying property in Virginia, you're still going to need to file the LLC in Virginia because those are the laws that are going to apply to whatever litigation you might be in for that property. If you try to file it in Alaska that has really good property rights laws, it's always going to get pulled back into the jurisdiction because that property is on the ground and it overrides that. So you still might use a registered agent in Virginia to file that, because if you don't want somebody to know your primary residence on a public record, you also might own that through a trust or something else to maintain some anonymity. But you can absolutely file a corporation in another state if you're using a registered agent. Anonymous attendee says close to 50,000 XRP, split 50-50 between a Roth and other. Advisable to go ahead with an LLC, even though the retirement account would not be included in the LLC. Got 25,000 outside of it. I need to know more information. And again, I can't really provide you specific advice. You'd want to talk with one of the professionals that are licensed on our team, or that have that expertise to be able to walk you through all the qualifiers. So, are you married? Which state do you live in? Are you domestic or international? What are your long-term goals? There's a lot of things there that might swing one way or the other with the amount that you're talking about. If you want to be extra proactive, you're probably going to have to set one up at some point, and you may want to go ahead and do that. But again, cost to benefit, I don't know without all of that additional information. Donald again says, why Wyoming for LLC? Already with a CFP, but they don't currently do crypto. I have a Roth with iTrust Capital with about 20,000 XRP and hold more outside the IRA. Not sure what to do. I ask my CFP to work with DAG. Yeah, we can work with them. We provide sub-advisory for other RIAs because we have a lot of people in your position. They don't necessarily have the professionals that are experts in this domain, and so they will work with us. And we're here to add value. We're not trying to take anybody's client. If you already have somebody that you've worked with for a long time and they do a good job, and you trust them on other stuff, cool. We'll just figure out how they can help you with your crypto too. But that being said, Wyoming does a couple things. Wyoming provides creditor protection through the laws that they've created between Delaware and Nevada. They kind of took the best of both to be able to get the charging order protection. You have anonymity because your attorney or whoever files the LLC's name is who's on there. They're the sponsored agent that's listed along with the registered agent. So your name and your address aren't on public record. The state taxes there in Wyoming are zero. It's also very cheap to maintain an entity in Wyoming. And then lastly, they're the most progressive jurisdiction in the U.S. when it comes to digital assets and the protections that you get by operating out of that state. So that's why we've chosen Wyoming. Arnold, he says, I'm from Australia. Good morning. Good morning, sir. Do you know anybody in Australia who does what you do or somebody who can help me with my personal and self-managed super fund? I'm not sure if you guys call it an IRA or 401k. I'm new to financial side of the world. Thank you for any and all help. We can help you with your self-managed super fund. We can hold that at Anchorage in kind if you have digital assets inside of it. We can, again, work with people that are international, not a problem. So you just reach out to us, go to digitalwealthpartners.net, go to the contact us form, and they can help you. And there aren't really anybody else, there is not anybody else globally that does what we do. That provides a full variety of services. There's a lot of people that are piecemealed. We do have partners in Australia that we make recommendations to work with, both on the tax and accounting side and on the entity structure side. So if you do want those affiliations or good people out there in Australia to talk to for the rest of your estate, aside from what you got there in the self-managed super fund, we're happy to provide those resources as well. And I want to mention this too. If you run into some good people and you think that they would be a net benefit for the broader community, we have a lot of people that reach out from multiple jurisdictions all the time. We don't take anything. We just want good people to have good people to work with. So if you find somebody that's like, yeah, A+, they did a fantastic job. I worked with them and it was great. Pass them along. And we would love to, again, pass their information along to other people that reach out to us. I hear you shouldn't sell after price appreciation because you're giving away the golden goose. But if you just hold it, how do you make money off of it? If you take loans against it, how do you pay back the loan or pay the loan interest? This is a common question. So if you understand infinite banking, you're basically borrowing against something that continues to appreciate over time. If you do it through a life insurance policy, you don't have to pay the interest on the loan. The loans that currently exist on XRP are not through a life insurance structure, and they do have interest that's due on a monthly basis. Most people aren't going to be borrowing against their total allocation. They might be borrowing against 20 to 50% of it, and the other percentage is then going to be, put to work in some capacity to generate returns to be able to service the debt on the borrowed money. And you can then write off the interest payments, right? So you're net not making anything, no income. You're not making any income, but you have that liquidity that you drew down for the loan. All of your points are valid. As it sits right now, XRP is pretty much collateral. I think it'll maintain that position. I don't know that there's going to be direct ways to be able to generate returns on your XRP through staking. They would have to change some things on the network and implement that, which they still might do. That's yet to be seen. But that's where things sit today. And again, there's going to be a lot of different ways that you'll be able to do that. It's a bit more sophisticated if you're going to be using, different portions of your bag to do different things. And you probably want to work with a professional to help you structure that the right way, model the outcomes based on continued price appreciation and the cash flow that you're going to be receiving. And you can also roll the loan. So as long as you're servicing the debt on a monthly basis, if you get the end of it and you've paid all the interest off, you can borrow again, or borrow more if the assets have appreciated in that time that you've been holding it there. Don't always recommend that. Again, a lot of people, they want some liquidity to be able to live their life and, upgrade their lifestyle, but they don't want it to be taxable. So debt is a tool. You guys know this. A lot of people will tell you debt is bad. Sometimes it is. Sometimes debt is not a good choice, and you should look for other means to be able to, other avenues to be able to generate cash flow or get liquidity. But it is a tool, and under the right circumstances, and if you understand what you're doing, it may be a good choice. Will there be multiple yield products that differ in return based on how long assets are locked up? Do you think we might need to go outside the U.S. for products if Canada does not pass, if Clarity Act does not pass this year? We're going to have those things irrespective of the Clarity Act. So I'm not overly concerned about, you having to go outside of the U.S. Anytime that people have done that in the past, it hasn't worked out so great. There are some good people out there. Doppler and many others are already doing this, but they have geofenced the U.S. because what they're offering is a securities offering, and they don't have it structured the right way, and they're waiting till the Clarity Act passes to be able to understand how they're going to be able to offer that to U.S. citizens without registering it as a security, or if they do need to, what they need to do in order to provide that to Americans. We have securities offerings. We just went the way that we through the designation. So, we're an SEC registered RIA, gone through the audit with them, went through the fund audit, all the stuff earlier this year. And, I don't think you're going to have to go outside the U.S. though. All right. I'm going to grab two more here and then I'm going to have to wrap it up. Matt Doering says, no question, just thank you. Thank you, dude. Appreciate the kind words. Looking forward to working with you and your team in the very near future. Already established an LLC, working with you and Laughlin. I appreciate that. If you do want to go ahead and move it over to our app, we can handle all of the corporate veil and maintenance and everything else on it for you. You don't have to feel obligated to stay with Laughlin if you feel like they're providing you good service. Again, you don't have to change either. But I would say that, the level of service and the expertise around digital assets, we probably have a little bit of an edge over Laughlin. We have a Laughlin Trust and Will instrument with a service that ends in October. Can we work with the DWP now? The attorney we were referred to wasn't crypto savvy. Yeah, you can move it over anytime. We'll transfer trusts. We'll do transfer of LLCs. And again, we have the full network to be able to provide you all the resources that you need. And that's what I'm saying. Not to knock Laughlin, they're good people. They do good work, but they're not crypto native. They don't have all the resources that we have to be able to provide people a full scope of all the things that you need. I think that's going to be it for all the time that I have. Unfortunately, I see that there's a lot more Q&A here. If you do have additional questions beyond what was covered here in the webinar or what was covered here, you can reach out to our team. You're just going to email info@digitalfamilyoffice.io. And our team there, the support team and the people that are on the front line will be able to answer any questions that you might have in regarding to anything that was mentioned. Again, appreciate y'all taking time out of your Friday to come hang out with me and learn a little bit. For the wealth management side, we're going to be consolidating all of this in the near future because I know it's confusing, but wealth management is digitalwealthpartners.net. Family office services are going to be bill pay and a lot of the stuff that I mentioned there, along with the trust formation and complex estate planning, is digitalfamilyoffice.io. And then lastly, if you do want to set up the LLC, work with us on that piece. If you're in that area and you don't have any additional questions, you can just go to app.digitalascensiongroup.com and you'll be able to get in there. And again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to info@digitalfamilyoffice.io. Hope you guys have a wonderful Friday, a wonderful weekend,